in your opinion, what's the major transformation that the book generates in the countries and the companies?
The purpose of the book was to explain a new way, if you will, to create value, and to contrast that with an older way. Now, in the book, we called it lean production. In retrospect, we should have called it lean management or lean enterprise. But nevertheless, you can't go back. And so what we were trying to do is explain, and the contrast we were really showing was with the classic multinationals, the General Motors, General Electric companies, and the best of the Japanese companies, which by far was Toyota. So we were contrasting two whole methods of running enterprises. So that was the great achievement of the book. Now, the reason the word production was wrong was because people heard factory. What we meant was there is a product development system and a production system and a supplier management system and a customer support system and a general management system. And you put those together and you have the complete system. So we should have called it lean enterprise rather than lean production. But what was really important was that it showed, the book showed the entire system. And to that point, particularly when talking about manufacturing companies, people were very factory-centric. They were looking at factories. And it turns out that's one-fifth of the issue. So we tried to show the whole system. And that, I think, was the great achievement of the book. We illustrated it with actual performance measures. That up to that point, no one had really done global benchmarks in which they showed product development, how long it took, how much it cost, production, how many people were needed, how much of this, how much of that. So these were the first real evidence that seemed to be real evidence because it had been obtained from all of the players in the game, and it had been verified by actually going to those players and confirming that what they were telling us was really true. So those were great achievements of the book. What was less successful was trying to explain how to do it. How can the reader do it? And the book didn't really attempt to do that. We had to write other books after that to explain that.
Okay, thank you. And in your opinion, what the main difference between the mindset, the mental model in companies with traditional management system and the mindset, the mental model in a lean company?
Lean companies try to think horizontally because value flows horizontally. Traditional companies think vertically. It's an authority structure. This we say is a responsibility structure. So that's a key difference. There's a key difference in how one thinks about problems. Are problems good or bad? It's really amazing. In our world, the lean world, problems are good. The more problems we see, the better off we are. In the traditional world, we're not supposed to have problems. Good managers don't have problems. And so you end up with problem suppression. That's a big, big difference. Problems are good, now we can work on them. Problems are bad, we don't have them, therefore. That's two big things, vertical, horizontal. Problems are good, problems are bad. There are a couple of other things. Traditional management says that the boss at the top can figure out what the problem is and what to do about it. Lean management says actually problems, important problems really exist at the point where real people create value. You need to be able to look at that level. But wait a minute, when the traditional manager hears that, it means the boss ought to go down to the factory floor or to the engineering office and say, I've figured out the problem, here's the answer. That can't possibly work. Instead, the boss goes and says, I think we have a gap. Please help me understand why we have this gap, and please help me think about how to remove this gap, a performance gap. That's a very different mindset. From the boss has the answer to the boss has the questions. These people just act at the bottom on the boss's answer. These people help figure out what the answer is and then run the experiments. Final thing, experiments. What is your attitude toward science? If the boss has got the answer, the experiment must show the boss was right. We see this in companies all the time. But actually, we're running an experiment because we don't know the answer. And an experiment that doesn't work teaches us as much as an experiment that does. That's a totally different mindset. Experiments are supposed to work. The boss is right. Actually, we're running the experiment in a lean world because we don't know the answer. And we're going to discover something very useful, whether this experiment shows the right answer, or this experiment simply shows that the most obvious thing to do is not the thing to do. We need to try something else. So those are the big differences.
Okay. I would like to talk with you about the leader lean. And the question is, what the main difference between a traditional leaders and a lean leaders?
Yeah. Lean leader enables people to solve problems. Traditional leader has the answer. The leader is the solution. I'm it. Listen to me, follow me. Wow, that's pretty interesting. You hope the leader is right. In a big organization, what is the chance that the leader is actually going to know reality at the value creation level, as opposed to have some theory that the leader came up with somewhere? So leadership, to me, is enabling people to solve problems and removing the barriers to people solving problems. That's leadership. Leadership in a traditional model is, I have the answer, I'm a hero, I'll give you courage, follow me. Good luck.